Okay, gonna do something a little different here tonight, guys. Um, I think one thing that happened to me when I went and got married in Tennessee. Let me check my microphone. Looks good. I think one thing that happened to me. Look at these beautiful screens. One thing that really happened to me when I went and I got married in Tennessee was that I really, whenever I'm out in Tennessee and I'm in the, and I go hiking and I'm out in kind of the woods, because there's some pretty good sized mountains. The Smoky Mountains in are they Smoky Mountains? I believe they are. And I'm walking through the woods and I see the trees and the forest and the rivers, and it always makes me think of, open world MMORPGs. I love the woods. I love forests. Something I've dreamed about doing ever since I was just a little kid was making my own video games. And it's been a dream of mine for 30 plus years. I'm 49 years old and I'm still actively thinking about it. So this stream is really me talking about kind of some of my plans that I wanna work on over the next 5 to 15 years probably. And I'm not gonna lie to you. This is really a hobby of mine. I have a full job as a full daytime job as a computer programmer, and I have to spend a lot of time working on that to pay the bills. But in my free time, as you guys know, I like to play video games, but I also really want to make my own video games. And so I'm hoping we can get some people to come online and we can kind of have a little discussion about, MMO story building concepts, kind of my ideas on what I want to do with game development, and then, what I'm working on. And in the meantime, if no one's on the chat and no one's talking, I'm just going to muck around in Black Desert. But like I said, when I went to get married and I was out in the woods in Tennessee, I kind of came back and I really didn't feel like playing games as much. I really, really wanted to turn the corner and start working on my own game. And there's just so much to do, and I think if you think about, like, here, I even opened up just some Visual Studio Code here, right? If you think about, what are the things I need to do to make a video game, an open world, make an open world 3D MMO or, RPG style game. What's up, Ken? You're currently not creative enough, Ken. You think about, like, for me, and like, I mean, the most important things for being able to make an MMO or an RPG themed, a fantasy based game is you have to have the tools, right? So, what tools do we need? Right? We need our modeler. We need a good modeler. 3D modeler. And of course, this is going to also create our art assets. And that's, of course, i.e., buildings, trees, rocks, character models, monsters, etc. Any kind of three-dimensional object we have to create, we're going to need a 3D modeler. We also need probably some sort of a texture program, and we can just use Photoshop if we want. So we can say Adobe. For right now, that's really what I have, is Photoshop. We need our 3D game engine. What I'm going to be using is probably Unity, right? So Unity 3D. This is our game engine. But we also don't want to forget about our storytelling and our story. What is the story of our game? So these are the tools. These are the tools we need, right? So this is the software. Let's just say software, because really it's software at this level. Okay, so this is just the piece of software. Other pieces of software that is I actually have World Machine. World Machine is a terrain generation tool. And it's actually a really cool one. And where we got World Machine. So we have, right, we've got World Machine. Ignore this release. I need to upgrade my world machine. Okay, and let's go to... It's been a while since I used this. Alright, you have to forgive me. Where's my view? No, come on, these are just some tools. It's been so long. Toggle main view. So this is like a preview of what our terrain could look like, right? This is like a basic terrain. We've got some water. Anyways, this is actually a really good tool for creating terrain. The cool thing about World Machine is we can use this. You need paladins. Yeah, we do need paladins. Is we can use World Machine to generate some pretty interesting terrain that we can then import into our game engine. And there's a lot of options, you know. And I'm not going to go in detail on this. This is just one of the tools that I may use. I probably will use. Another tool is something called, and this is a cool one. So like when I'm thinking about my game, some of the first things I'm thinking about were the tools, right? Adobe.com. And I have to think about what's the software I need to get my game to bring my game to realization, you know. And tools like Photoshop, Illustrator I've used in the past. I've used 3D programs before. So let's look at the different. And there's a specific tool. I always forget what they call it because it was actually bought out. Here we go. They actually bought it. Adobe bought this software from somebody else. And I know I've discussed it before, but it's actually a really cool piece of software. And I don't... I'll find it here in a second. I don't know if it is it Fuse? Hopefully it's not Fuse. And Adobe bought Substance. Wow, Substance is really good too. Substance is something else I've been thinking about using for textures. And Fuse is a new thing for 3D models. It's not really what I'm. And of course, Substance is just texturing. I didn't know that Adobe had actually acquired it. Look, Substance by Adobe. So Adobe actually acquired Substance. So that's actually a pretty big acquisition. That must have been fairly recent. What is this tool though? This is not it. I don't see it. I really want to show you guys this one. Basically, what it is we can create like our 3D characters or 3D models, and we can upload those models into this software and actually add the animations to them. It could be. If it's Fuse, that means they've been started rewriting it. But I'm hoping that's not it. Spark is web graphics, interactive, Rush, InDesign, Illustrator, Lightroom, Photoshop. I thought that was all of them. There's a few others I haven't heard. It'd really be probably design. Video and audio. Damn it, what is it called? It's gonna drive me nuts if I can't remember. It's not the character animator. I'm racking my brain. No, it's not a modeler. Damn it. This is it. Here it is. This is it. Actually came up. Yeah, see, it says Adobe Mixamo, so it's funny, right? So the cool part about Mixamo, and this is something that I really want to use, is that we can create our characters, our 3D character models. What's up, Chris? We can create our 3D character models, and we can upload those models into Mixamo. We just have to make sure that the 3D models are rigged. Once we upload them, then we can actually apply animations to them. So here we have like these are the characters that they have. So you could actually grab one of their characters if you want, but we can go into the animations here. So we could basically upload, or we don't even have to upload. Basically what we're doing is we're finding the animation we want for our character model, and we download the animations scripts so that we can actually then throw them into like Unity and actually apply those animations to our character model that we've already previously created. So, you know, if we wanted to go in and make, what's a good one here? Even like a jumping one, right? The cool thing about these animations is you can actually modify them here. So we can go in and say, oh, character arm space. We don't want the arms so far apart, right? See, so now the arms are closer together. We can also do some suspense. I'm not sure what suspense does. But we can change the animations to some degree. See, this actually slows down the jumping speed. So you see it's a little bit slower. And then you can just download download these animations and throw them into Unity and attach them to our character model. So this is a way of really, I mean, you can see there's 52 pages of animations that they have for Mixamo. And this stuff's free, which is amazing to me, and that's why I've been really wanting to get in here. What's up? What's up, Chris? How you doing? This stuff is free, which is why I really wanted to get in and start working on my game, because who knows how long this will be free, because Adobe purchased Mixamo. And I could totally see Adobe trying to make money off of this, right? But as far as I know, this is free. I don't even know. Is this using my Adobe account? Yeah, now we're going to download our FBX file with skin. And we can say without skin uniform. So this is pretty cool that we can download like an FBX file, and then we can plug this right into whatever 3D engine we're using. This would save you a ton of time. Okay, so that's one of the tools, you know, that we'd be using. So let's go ahead and put in Mixamo, right? Mixamo by Adobe. What other software tools would I possibly be using? You know, we saw Substance as well. So Substance is just, again, is our texture tool. So we can also use Blender. So Blender we can also use for texturing. So we're just going to say, you know, for texturing, for textures. We can use Photoshop, Blender, Substance, Painter. Unity is our game engine. World Machines, Terrain Generation. Our 3D modeler is, of course, going to be Blender. Modeler, Blender. So these are some of the things first thing we have to think about when we're making our game, right? It's like what tools do we need, and then we have to think about. And these are just some. This is just some of the stuff. Now a lot of this stuff I've already done. I've already thought about all these things, you know. And then we need to think about, you know, what is the game, right? You know, what is the game? So for me, open world, high fantasy themed RPG. Now I'm going to put /MMO because the goal is that, you know, the systems I'm building are really systems that should work in an MMO as far as like the combat, movement, certain things like that. So what is the game? Open world, high fantasy themed. So then, okay, so we know what the game is, right? But now we need to know, you know, what are the characters of the game, or what's the story? So we have to do the story building. So really, to me, the next biggest thing is really, so this first section we could just say, you know, here, what are things, this is like, we can even break this down into like technology or technology tools. All right. Tools. But this is kind of the exercise that I've already gone through. You know, I'm just kind of showing you like my thought process, right? You know, you kind of go through and break it down like this. First section, you know, maybe technology. And of course, the header of this really was, you know, what do we need to make our game? And then, you know, here we got what is the game, right? And that would be section 2, you know, and then, you know, so now we have overall, so now we're really getting to what I consider the biggest and the most important part. It's just story building, right? We need to think about what's the story, who are the characters, and if we go to this degree, let's take a look and see if I've got, I'll show you guys something. I have to upgrade my RDC draft as well. How are you guys doing, Chris? Ken? Ken, are you at work? Okay, so lay of the land. So this is something that I've already worked on. You know, I mean, I've worked on some of the things previously. When we're thinking about story building, like creating your world, you know, step 1. You know, these are my own words, really. Plan the lay of the land, creating a solid, believable physical world is the first step. You know, and you can see here the reason some fantasy novelists or readers are so obsessed with maps is because the act of physically mapping the world grounds it. You don't have to draw the maps; you can make notes instead. But the point is that you need to have a sense of the world as a physical place that has boundaries. Oh, you're playing Wacken? And so this is like, you know, really, you know, so creating the map is something that I've even started. I mean, I even started creating part of the map of my world, but I think it's really, really important to create the map. Now, for me, for what I'm doing, it's not, you know, I can just start with a small piece of the map. I don't have to do it all at once. You know, that's why I said I'm just going to start off with creating one little village and one little tiny spot in the world, because I'm creating like more of a proof of concept. But in the end-all, be-all of things, you really need to create your world. Glad you're doing good. Ken's playing WoW. And step 2, give your fantasy world concrete rules. Now, this is like, you know, pretty important, right? I mean, you have Lord of the Rings, right? Or maybe you have, you know, the Shannara Chronicles by Terry Brooks, or maybe you have Star Wars. You know, they have rules, right? In Star Wars, there's Jedi who can make things levitate with their mind, right? And you know, Lord of the Rings, there's wizards who might be able to shoot fire out of their hands, or, you know, also move things with magic, you know. But just because this is fantasy and not science doesn't mean that the world can lack rules or simply have arbitrary conditions. So maintaining consistency throughout the world is crucial. So you do have to determine the rules of your world, and you do have to adhere to them so that things make sense. The people playing your game have to understand how things work, and that they can't just at any moment's notice say, "Hey, I'm gonna, you know, jump a ravine that's, you know, 300 feet and, you know, just do it." You know, it's not possible. You know, there's going to be some laws there. decide how the different inhabitants of your fictional world speak. So this is pretty interesting too. Even you look at World of Warcraft, you talk about like when the Horde talk, like if a Horde character goes up and starts talking, you can't understand what they're saying because they speak a different language. So there's that. So you have to think about, and J.R.R. Tolkien is, I think I always refer to him because he's really done the best job of really creating probably the most extensive, fully realized fictional world. Even creating his own languages. And of course, Tolkien was a master of that was what he studied in, which college did he go to? In London, in England. Anyways, Oxford. I think he was a linguist originally. So yeah, step 4, plan magic, religious, social, and political systems. I think it's really important that you do plan like how villages and cities work. Like if I go into a bar and I just kill the bartender, I mean, there should be something that happens. There should be some guards that come in and arrest me, or people are going to react in a certain way, and that's part of the political system of that town, part of the social systems that govern that town. There has to be some sort of consequence for your actions. So, there's just, creating your world. MMO story building, I go through here the story, the story of your MMO, the world. I go through quite a lot of details. This is like a big exercise that I did myself to really come up with, and this is something I did for a video, that I've actually put up on my YouTube channel quite a while ago. It's a pretty old video, but I talked about character progression growth, and I think, if you look at this, I don't really like gear progression. I think, here I talk about character progression and growth, which I think is probably the most important thing to a lot of people who play MMOs. They're thinking about, how when I play a game, the feeling of getting stronger and stronger is what gives you a sense of satisfaction, right? And that's really just your character growing or progressing. Gear progression is the most common example of a system allowing characters to grow. What makes gear progression really work is that it's easy to formulate, and it's such a common method of progression in massively multiplayer games. Players are very used to this type of system. I'm not a huge fan of gear. I mean, I like gear progression to a degree, but I think that we really need to shake up the MMO genre, and I think that we need to come up with better systems that allow people to grow in other ways, not just gear progression. There's always going to be gear progression to a degree, but when I played Dungeons & Dragons, I had a good dungeon master, so he wasn't just handing out gear left and right. I mean, you might have to do something pretty amazing to get a sword +1. You know what I mean? You had to, magic was very rare, and that's the way my game will be. Magic and stuff, things are going to be very, very rare, and you have to work very, very hard to get those types of things. So, yeah, you definitely need detail for sure, Chris. I mean, you have to plan everything out. I mean, I've even had sessions with one of my developers work talking about some of the concepts for my game and going back, things that I might try, and then he kind of gives me the devil's advocate and says, well, this might not work for this reason, and, he's actually had some really good points. But another way of character progression growth is player to environment, PvE really, PvE relations, so the system based on getting reputation or familiarity with various towns or cities or people, so you pour a good deed such as saving a town from a raid of orcs, and you'll become known or even famous perhaps. These relations can help mold your growth in the world. So just becoming known, or having the world react to things you do. So if I do save a town from a raid of orcs, then the next time I go to town, they're probably going to recognize me, and maybe they'll give me a discount at the, at the inn. Maybe I'll get a discount on a room or something. But you want those things to occur because that increases immersion, and it makes you feel good that you've done something good. And of course, conversely, you can be bad, and maybe you killed an important government official, and because of that, there might be people looking out to kill you, or you might get invited to the Thieves Guild or some other thing. So that's all really interesting. And then the phases of game development. This is a really basic outline of the phases of game development. Basically, the phase 1, create the idea of the game, conceptualize conceptualize the ideas of things, the world, the cities. Phase 2, gamify. That's really just write or adapt a game engine to the rules of your world and play test it. So this is really writing all the code to make the game engine realize the concepts that you have written down on paper. Saying, I want to be able to have magical spells, or be able to use a sword, or be able to ride a horse. Well, now you got to write the code in the game engine to actually allow people to do these things. And then of course phase 3 is just the final phase of polish, where finishing out some just particle effects, better textures, maybe LOD maps, whatever, playtesting, debugging, all that kind of stuff. So it's just something to think about. This is a very basic phases of game development, though there's a lot more advanced ones that I've gone through. And the races, we don't want to go into this too much. The first race that I am going to have is called the Shreen. That's a definite. There's another race I'm working on. My goal really was to probably come out with eventually, hey, what's up, Celsius? How you doing, man? Good morning. Fame system of sorts, yeah, you could have a fame system. Right now, it's there should be there's got to be a consequence for things that you do. So if you do good deeds or even evil deeds, then the game itself will remember that, and there will be different tags, and so there's going to be some sort of a tag based system. Every NPC in the world will have certain tags or certain information. So there's going to have to be a pretty good database put in the back end that's going to store all this information. And I still have to that's another thing. I mean, I have to research all the technical details of commonly how that stuff's done. And I've been spending a lot of time watching videos by this one guy who worked on Vanguard and the MMO that the second MMO Brad McQuaid put out. He worked on that, and so he's got a lot of good knowledge on creating MMOs. So I'm going to be picking his brain for. Once I get some of those technical questions written down, then I can toss those at him and some other people I know to get the technical details hashed out. But those are way down the road. I'm not really too concerned about some of that stuff. The most important thing up front is just for me just to get used to the game engine. Get used to doing the basic stuff in Unity, since I've pretty much decided to use Unity. Just because I'm so comfortable with C# coding, because I've done C# coding for so long, and it's just be a lot easier for me to jump right in and start writing code and doing stuff. You can see here villages in Vosslar. Really, the initial village is the village of Breck, and that's really the first thing that I'm going to be creating in Blender. Concepts. These are just other notes for me. This was something I actually posed on a Discord channel one time. I just posed to people what makes a fantasy RPG fun. And these are just a few of the answers that I got. Zara said when a game has its own unique path, it has unique mechanics never seen before in MMO, but keeps traditional MMO values everybody loves. It offers a sense of accomplishment. I think this is obviously really important. Sense of accomplishment when you achieve things makes your work, you get rewarded for your work, and of course the storyline is good. Faith G here, Shinko, he said a sense of growth, grind your own, develop singular character and its elements, armor, skills, well design flow and structure of how to acquire these elements, whether through dungeon, general environment, etc. People tend to want to feel unique, hence having a complex character customization is preferred. That was a good point. And the good thing about that, really, is that for character customization, I mean, the way that I want to make my game is it's basically wide open. I mean, if you want to try to learn elemental magic, you can. But if you want to also focus on some of the technology stuff, you can as well. But remember, when you sit down at the computer and you log in, the time you spend, if you're narrowing your focus to just elemental magic and all you're doing is trying to discover new ways to learn elemental magic, well then of course you're going to progress a lot further down that path than someone who might be focusing on learning elemental magic and also learning, spending time with his deities and trying to, do things and do tasks for them to gain more divine power. And the more divine power you get from doing stuff for the deities that you worship allows you to, to cast, to have, cast spells based on your divine power, or maybe get some of the deities to help you in certain situations. You may even be able to do a plea or cast out a little bit of a, hey, such and such guy, can you come down and help me take out these orcs? So the system's going to be very wide open. You can do whatever you want, but of course narrowing your focus is going to make you progress faster in that one thing. So and this person just said, for me, it's an immersion into a fantastical world. Actually, very simple, but very true. I mean, really, what really makes people enjoy MMOs is immersion. You want to be immersed into a world that's more enjoyable than the world we live in. Because let's face it, the world we live in kind of sucks. We have to get up and go to fucking work, right? I mean, if we all had our choice, would we want to get up and have to go work? I don't want to go up and work. When I wake up tomorrow morning, I don't want to have to fucking go to work, right? I'd rather play games or go play my guitar, or you know what I mean. There's 1,000 other things I'd rather do than go to the office. So, that is one of the appeals of an MMO, is that you're going off into a world where you don't have to do those types of things, and you can just do things you want to do that are fun. This one's interesting. Big MMO enjoys tools. It's obvious to have the gear on a treadmill. It's obvious you're making things longer. It's taking longer. So he's just got some more information, but I don't want to read through all that. And documents. Another thing too. Oops, sorry. Another thing too is just the biomes. And this is just me kind of going through the basic. Biomes are basically just different geographical regions by type. So, like the Alps are a biome, really. Mountains covered in snow. Mountains are really a biome. A bog consisting of decaying trees, frequented with water, and stagnant, vile, and odorous. Dead forest, dead swamp, flower field. I mean, all these could technically be biomes, like a tundra, a coniferous forest, pine trees and such. Desert. I think one of the things that a lot of MMOs don't really have is, yeah, Chris, that's a good idea. What makes an MMO not fun? I think that's actually good. Let's put that down. And I think for me, what makes it grindy, repetitive. For me, repetitive, grindy content makes an MMO not fun. Funneled content, where you're forced to always kind of go through a certain path to get to a certain end. I don't like that. An example of funneled content is being locked into a linear path, such as like you start in a certain zone and you have to go to this next zone, and when you're done with that zone, you have to go to this next zone. I don't like that. I mean, I think one of the things I really liked about the game Skyrim was that when you play Skyrim, you don't have to do anything. You can just pick a direction and go. I can just say, you know what, I'm going to walk this direction. I can find some bandits, kill them. I might get some loot, might get some money. Or I can go the other direction. I might find some guards in a town and say, you know what, I'm going to kill these guards just because I feel like it, I can steal their swords too, so having that kind of an open system I really like. So I don't like linear paths. I don't like being funneled through certain content. So if you guys have any ideas on things you don't like or what doesn't make an MMO fun, let me know right now and I'll jot it down. But I have so many notes like on my Google Drive, and I'll have to go in there and really just clean them up because it's quite a mess. And I was going through putting together my pencil sharpeners and my pencils and all my art drawing boards and stuff. Tonight I was getting all that stuff together because I actually want to do some concept art and do some drawings, and I'm also pulled out some of my journals. I have a lot of journals. In fact, I've got probably about 4 or 5 different journals, and the reason I bought those journals was so that no matter where I was in my apartment, I could take notes. If I think of something, if something strikes me of interest, I'll have a journal close by, and I can just open it up and write down, notes or things that I've thought about. And what really makes me mad is there's several instances where I've thought good things up and I didn't write it down, and then I forgot. And now I'm like trying to remember those cool ideas I thought of. So having no penalty for bad decisions, that's a great one, Celsius. That's actually a really good one. And what that is what I like to call that, Celsius, is I like to call that the sense of danger. Like I call that fear. And I think one of the things I learned when I played Lineage 2 that I really liked was that when I walked into certain dungeons and I walked around a corner and I saw like 3 or 4 monsters standing over there was always a little sense of fear, because I knew if I aggroed like 3 or 4 of them that I could die. And if I died, I was going to not only die, but I'd lose experience. I could possibly drop gold, possibly drop a piece of armor that some other player could just walk up and pick up before I could run back to my corpse, because you have to do the corpse run, you know? So, you know, no penalty for bad decisions. And that's another thing too. Like if you're in a dungeon cell system and you just say, "Oh, I'm just going to run in and attack all these mobs." Well, in World of Warcraft, there really isn't much of a penalty in retail. If you're in just a little 5-man dungeon and you wipe, what's the big penalty? Oh, I wiped. I gotta run back in. You know, it cost me 10 minutes. You know, that's not much of a penalty really. Bland questing always kills. Yeah, that's a good one, John. So basically, you know, no penalty. Penalty for bad decisions. This is a good one. And, you know, bland or again, I'm going to say repetitive quests. You know, because yeah, that's a good one too. And I think we've all, if you ever go to there's a channel that I go to, right? So if we go to my YouTube, right? And if you look at channels I'm subscribed to on YouTube, and this is just to show you guys how much I'm totally into really game development. But if you look at the channels I'm subscribed to, you know, MMO Bite, Men of the West, this is basically a guy who talks all about the lore of Lord of the Rings. Lethal Chris Drawing, great guy. He does a lot of good just illustrations, drawings. You know, Punk Rat, whatever. He does the classic stuff. He's, you know, Pantheon Plus, Pantheon. Sitar is a rogue for classic WoW. You know, Quixel does a lot of 3D creation. Fever's one of my favorite. You know, illustrative media. This guy just had some stuff for not Black Desert, but Arc Age. Nathan Napon, Pantheon Plus, Blender Guru, great channel. If you guys want to do stuff with Learn Blender, you should definitely, you know, subscribe to Blender Guru. This guy here, I can't remember. I should know his name. It's not Alex. Anyway, he's super cool and does a lot of really great tutorials. But if you just go through these, you can see that most of my content is based on MMOs or 3D game development. You know, game development. This is the guy here that worked on Vanguard, and he does just really nice videos. And what's so cool about his videos is they're long. Like here, building big games and MMOs with Unity. You know, or like Unity questions and problems. And he did one on Unity, like test plans, building an architect games in Unity. He's building an architect games questions and answers. He'll do like streams where he answers questions. Another one, game dev building art code and crunching questions and answers. So, you know, he does a lot of good content, which is cool. And I've been watching him a lot. And he's one of the guys that I could ask questions about for game development because he has worked on MMOs. Jason Wyman, cool guy. And if we go back to, what was I? What did you say? MRE? What is MRE, Jawbone? Let's see. Doing the same thing over and over drove me away from it. Yeah, dailies. I hate dailies. Can't stand dailies. I don't like doing the same raids over and over again. I think that's just stupid. What is MRE, Jawbone? I'm not sure what MRE is. Is that some sort of quest in WoW or something? But I think anything that's like repetitive. So we talked about what makes an MMO not fun, right? We talked about really, you know, what is the game? This is the game. And we talked about story building. So I kind of went through some of the story building concepts, right? And I went through that with, you know, in here. We went into story building. What is this? You know, story of your MMO of the world. This is all about story building, you know, creating the races of the world. So these are just questions that I put together to help you, like, you know, when creating races for your world, ask yourself the following questions. What physical traits do they have? Does your race possess any defining unique skills or abilities? Are they perhaps great miners or craftsmen? Of course, I pulled that from, sound familiar? Great miners and craftsmen. Pulled right from Lord of the Rings. Do they have some unique abilities to be able to breathe underwater or see in the dark? Do they have use some magic? You know, why are they prejudiced against a certain race? Like in Tolkien, dwarves didn't trust elves. You know, what are the origins of the race? Where do they come from? Does your race break down into subgroups? For example, elves commonly have subgroups like wood elves, drow elves, high elves, dark elves. Where do your races live and how do they sustain themselves? What do they eat? What is their currency? What do they trade? How do they get from one place to another? Do they utilize any mode of transportation, such as horses or wolves? Perhaps they ride the backs of great eagles. What type of belief system do they have? Do they worship God or gods? Is there some sort of political system in place in their culture? These are all great questions to ask yourself when trying to develop the races for the world that you're creating, right? Meal ready, eat. MRE channels, huh? Meal ready eat, huh? Don't they call those MRE rations? Aren't those like military rations? MREs? Isn't that what those are called? Military rations? So yeah, so we talked about, story building. What makes an MMO not fun? What makes an MMO not fun? And we could go on this topic for probably quite a while. If you guys can think of other things, you can even just put it in the comments on this video, and just say, hey, these are the things I don't want to see in MMO. What are the things you do want to see? And then we talk about the systems of the MMO. So let's just briefly say, game systems, right? So game systems. When I think of game systems, I'm always thinking about, now what I called mine core life systems, right? And for me, core life systems, what I created was elemental magic, demonic, demonic worship, or power, whatever you want to call it. Worship sounds, people like when Dungeons and Dragons first came out and there were demons. People were like rioting against D&D, saying, "Oh my God, it's making kids worship demons or the devil or something." And thankfully, people are a little bit more open-minded nowadays. But demonic worship or power is just you're basically praying to demonic entities to give you power. And then, of course, there's the divine. Same thing. But conversely is the divine worship or, power. And this would be called, maybe could be called divinity, or just divine power would be like a resource maybe you could get. And this part of the game I haven't really fleshed out yet. And then demonic worship power would also be called demonic, demonic energy maybe. And of course, the other thing you can do with worshiping these people is you can call upon aid. So call upon, call upon your, your deity or demon for help. And either of these could do that. So these are just some of the core life systems. Another one could be technology. And this I don't want to go into too much detail, but just as an example, let's say a gauntlet that you can wear that has some sort of energy source in it. It enables you to maybe shoot a energy bolt or even create an energy shield to absorb damage. Another core life system that I think that I had was elemental magic. I think what was the other ones I had? Divine. These are most of the main ones that I was thinking of. I know there was a few more, but it's awesome to watch sometimes. But these are like some of the core life systems. And then you would have basic. The other ones I call just basic life systems, right? And these would be stuff like cooking, pickpocketing, swordsmanship, or, dagger skills, learning how to use a dagger, archery, potions, this type of stuff, alchemy, other basic life systems that are just things you pick up, Yeah, like, well, yes, have patron gods. Yeah, but you're going to have a lot more of a a close relationship with your gods if that's the way you're going to go, right? So you do like the Holy Trinity. Well, the Holy Trinity is your healer and your damage dealer and your tank, right? So in this instance, like in the game I'm thinking about, I don't really think of the systems that way. I mean, you definitely are going to have people who can heal. You're definitely going to have people who can do damage, and you're definitely going to have someone who can probably tank. My example there of even just, you would have someone who's basically proficient in, plate armor, and they proficient with plate armor and shield. So these are skills you would have to learn. So it's not like, Yeah. Yeah, well, there's definitely, that's actually another good point. So we'd have race-specific goods, and let's just say race-specific goods. So one of the races that I'm working on creating is, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but they live in a certain area. They live on an island that's separate from the rest of the world, and on that island only, there's specific minerals that are there in the earth that allows them to actually create armor that's more powerful and better armor than anywhere else in the world. So when you meet that particular race, right, they're going to have access to the ability to make armor out of and to know how to work that type of mineral. So only people of that race would be able to do that. Now, you wouldn't be able to, as another race, make that armor, but you could possibly buy that armor, but you would have to go there and buy it from them, and that's only if they were willing to sell it to you. So there are going to be race-specific goods, such as, specific, rare or race-only access to items or minerals or even magic or technology. And and that's something I've already thought about and something that I want to implement. The other thing too is weather effects. I'm just throwing stuff out there right now, but weather effects on party, mood, health, gear, travel time, etc. So implementing weather systems such that if it's raining really hard, you're not going to be able to move as fast. If you don't take care of your armor, it may start to rust. If you're walking through, swamps, you might get bit by Gameling. What's up, Zalson? How you doing, Zalson? Beskar. What is Beskar? The Mandalorian armors, yeah. Or if you're walking through like a swamp, and you might even just, there's going to be, you could get bit by a mosquito and contract a disease, and start to take damage, and that you'd have to somehow find a way to cure yourself. You may even, so that's another thing. So we have, weather effects on party. The other thing that we're going to implement, that I want to implement in my game, is something that is very popular in, Beskar, huh? Yeah, hopefully Zalson's back is okay. The other thing that I want to implement is basically, and I just forgot. I just blanked on it because I was thinking of Zalson's back. But, it's something in Dungeons & Dragons that you see. It's basically just random encounters, or dynamic encounters. And that's something, Guild Wars 2 did a good job with dynamic encounters. So I would like to implement something like dynamic random encounters. Dynamic random encounters. So I want to implement what we always had in Dungeons & Dragons, which is, when you're moving through the world, random things can happen to you, and they may not always be good, and they may not be avoidable. So, like, you've been resting all day. Three to 6 months. Well, at least you're going to recover, though. That's good. That's good news. So, yeah, so dynamic random encounters. I think that, let's say you're just moving through a woods and you get jumped by some goblins. And so basically, having things happen to you that aren't really avoidable. Like a lot of times when you play MMOs, the monsters and stuff are just kind of walking around, and you can usually, you can getting struck by lightning. That's another one, Ken. But the monsters are just walking around, and they're just, it's easy to see them, it's easy to avoid them. In my game, it won't be quite like that. I mean, there'll be things where like you're going through at night, and I mean you'll be able to see them maybe, but like I'll have mobs that are going to path in certain directions, or if you go through certain areas that you're pretty much guaranteed that if something happens, RNG based, basically, like, I roll a number, and if a certain dice comes up, you're just going to get attacked no matter what you do. So, so dynamic random encounters, it just adds a little bit of spice to the game, because it's not like you're always going to experience the same things when you're moving around. So, you're still walking. Yep, that's good. So that's some of the stuff for story building. I mean, basically, here's like more, you know, I think when you think about like where do the cities exist, like if you think about creating your map of the world, I mean, yeah, it definitely adds danger to the world. This is all for Vostar, yeah, Zolson. But the other thing you need to think about is like when you're thinking about creating the map of your world and you're thinking about the major cities, you kind of want to you want to think about, well, why are those cities there? Why is this city on the coast? Why is this city in the middle of the woods? There's got to be a reason for it. No settlement stands alone. A city has towns nearby. Towns have villages nearby. So when drawing map, you still, nearby lands and features. You know, so it's interesting. This is one of the reasons why you draw a map first and then decide where your city is, which is kind of interesting. I think, one of the examples I gave before is like where you live can affect the races. Like if you have one race that exists pretty much in a wasteland or in like a desert, well, they're going to be a lot better at, they're going to probably be a lot hardier and probably a lot healthier. They're going to probably have to walk a lot and not have as much access to water, so they're probably going to have developed, the ability to do more work and spend more energy without needing as much water as some people who grew up in a very lush environment, so that you have to think about how the environment's going to affect the races and stuff like that. So, yeah, and of course the weather systems and all that. But there's just so many different things. Yeah, let's close this down. Anyways, this is my world machine. This is my terrain generator. It's pretty cool. You can actually do a lot of really neat stuff. I'm trying to remember how to do the edit. No, where is it? It's been so long since I've used this program. Command, set it as footage. Anyways, enough. World Machine's a cool tool. It's something I'll probably be using. Yeah, so I mean, this is just some of the stuff you have to think about when building the game. But really, getting getting down to, I think the first steps. I really think you do have to nail down the races, the world, the lore, the map of the world, the cities, the villages. All that stuff has to be done, I think, before you even start really writing code, because it's just me. I'm just one person, right? So it's not like I can do two things at once. I can't be working on creating the lore of the game and doing the models for the villages at the same time. So I'm trying to start it, I'm trying to plan it out and like this is the steps I'm going to do and kind of in this order. And I've actually been talking to my wife about it and trying to every day when I get home from work scheduling like a little time slot, like get home, eat dinner, and then spend like 2 hours every night working on my game, every day. Anyways, so that's all I really wanted to go over in this video, was just kind of like go through a little discussion of game building and just to tell you guys that that's one of the reasons why I haven't been playing as much WoW, as my mind's been really on game development, and I've been spending a lot of time going through some videos on Unity and different things. So I just haven't been as much in playing because of that. So. All right, and having said all that. Ooh, crowded. Oh, my account authentication has expired. Well, how do I log back in? Oh, it boots me all the way out when it expires. But yeah, I'll go ahead and stop this video just because of this stream, because it was, specific to, well, I guess I can keep it running, but I'm just going to jump into Black Desert and play a little bit. Oh, man. It's just so much work, though. It's hard when I work all day in the office to come home and do all the stuff I need to do at home, but never going to get anywhere in my game if I don't. That's why I need you guys to kick my ass and keep bugging me. Say, Julian, when are you working on? When are you gonna get some stuff out? But once I start getting some stuff done, I can start putting it up on the other channel. If you guys, you guys probably already know. Most of you know that I already have another YouTube channel. And if you haven't already subscribed, feel free. Here, I'll show you the other YouTube channel. It's going to be where I do all my content videos for the world of Vosslar. Yeah, I'm glad that my new computer is arriving. They actually updated the shipping. It's going to arrive Wednesday. I have played Guild Wars 2. In fact, if you search my channel... Here you go. I have a Guardian leveling series. There's 45 videos right here I've done on leveling a Guardian in Guild Wars 2. So yeah, I've played Guild Wars 2 quite a bit actually. I actually love Guild Wars 2 is... Guild Wars 2 is like... Like the video, yes, like the video, guys. I appreciate it. When can we play it? Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I do have another channel. It's but yeah, I played Guild Wars 2 a ton. I love the level design in Guild Wars 2. In fact, I don't think, in my opinion, Guild Wars 2 has the best level design of any MMO. I mean, it's just some amazing levels, and this is actually just the very beginning of the game. And again, I was running it on this computer, which isn't a very good computer, so I only have the graphics about halfway. Like I said, I did get an update on my computer, and it's going to be. I'll link the other. I'm going to go to the other channel here in a minute. I'll link it. But yeah, I got an update on the shipping of my computer. My computer is going to arrive Wednesday, so I should be here Wednesday. And once we get that up, we'll do some fun. We'll do a video where I'm just gonna run into. Well, I have to install the games, right? So it's gonna take me a while to get the computer going because I got to install. I'm gonna install Guild Wars 2 probably because I want to play that just to see what it looks like with all the graphics turned up all the way. And I'll be installing Black Desert. And I'll be installing, World of Warcraft. And that's probably about it. I'm not going to install that much. Maybe like those 3 games, and that's it. But then I've got to go install my development tools, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code and Unity and, those types of things that I'm using. But here's my other channel. So basically, the way YouTube works is like I've got this channel here, and you can see feature channels, the World of Vosslar. But if we just go here, and I can switch switch accounts. I have basically 2 channels under. They're really different accounts. The YouTube looks at them as different accounts, and so I just switched to the World of Vosslar. Now go to your channel, and this is the other one. So you can see I haven't done anything yet. I haven't done any videos yet, but this is the where I'm going to put all my content for my video game, and you can see I've got 17 subscribers, which is funny. I don't even know who these people are. Yeah, but this is where I'll be doing my videos, and if you just go, let's see, one of these is World of, and actually the name. Actually, there's 18 subscribers. Maybe one of you guys just now subscribed. Thank you if you did. I'm assuming one of you guys did. But how do we... let me do this one more time. Unfortunately, it doesn't have like a name. I think you can change it though. Let's see if we can edit the channel so that it's like a nicer, you know, link. Like if you go to Caffeine Injected, like my other YouTube channel, and if you just do a search, I think, you can see that the link, see the bottom left corner of the screen, youtube.com. So it's just, you know, it's actually, see, it's just youtube.com user Caffeine Injected. So I would like to change my other channel to be, you know, youtube.com user, you know, the World of Vosslar. So that shouldn't be too difficult to do. Actually, I just need to go into edit. Usually they'll let you change if it's available, you know, and someone else doesn't have it. You know, you can usually, you have like a one time where you can change it. So if I go to my channel settings, your channel's the World of Vosslar, channel status. See, here's the channel ID, but I want to change it. I don't know if it'll let me do it though. Usually you can. Make the channel the World of Vosslar the default when I sign to. No, I don't want that. Anyways, I'll try to do that later. Try to see if I can change the channel ID. Because that is one ugly channel ID. I don't know if because my channels are linked together, they may like say that I can't do that because I've already done it for my other channel. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I've done a lot of videos on Guild Wars 2. So if we switch my account, let's switch my account back and if it, man, this computer, I'm so glad the new computer's coming because this one's really starting to get slow. But yeah, Chris, when can you play the game? I tell you what, once I get it up and running, if any of it, you know, I mean, what I'll be doing is I'll be going in and I'll be creating like, you know, like the Village of Brack. What I'll do is I'll go through and I'll make the buildings. Like I'll make something like one building, and then I'll go back in and do it again. But I'll film it, I'll record it, so you guys can see the process of how I did it. And so, really, the videos I want to upload to the World of Vosslar channel are really videos showing you. They're like really dev diaries. If you guys have ever watched dev diaries, here I'll show you basically what I'm going to do. If you go to what is it? Ninja Theory. I'll show you kind of the way I want to do it. Just to give you kind of like an approach. Ninja Theory. They should have this as a playlist. Just give me a second here. Videos. I actually saw it there. I just screwed it up.
A big part of the Hellblade project is sharing development and being open about how we make the game. So we wanted to announce the game early on in the development process so we could share the journey with you from the very beginning. Something we always do at Ninja Theory is create a previs trailer at the very beginning of development to define the art style, the mood and the tone of the game. As we move through development, then the vision can change a lot, as you'll see from these examples. These videos are never intended to be seen by the public, they're just used to pitch the game to publishers, but given that we are the publisher on Hellblade, there's no real reason to hold them back. We used to
So this is a little bit like the format of how I want to do, like when I work on my game, I want to kind of do this like little, like basically like dev diaries. It's basically just my development diaries, me. And then later, as I get further down the line, what I'll be doing is if I start making some progress, I'll start recruiting some people in, probably from the Unity Discord, or the Udemy Discord. One of the cool things about Udemy, and if you guys haven't used Udemy, I'll show you. The list of things that I have to do, right? So if I go to my learning, right? And I think I've touched upon this, this before. But these are games that I've purchased on Udemy that I'm going through, right? So like the Ultimate Game Development Guide for Unity. So this one I just bought today, and I just started going through this one. The Ultimate Drawing Course. This is something, and just other stuff, But I've got a bunch on Blender, character creation. Here's the World Machine one, which I'm actually when I was going through this, I got fairly proficient in World Machine, but that was probably about a year ago. But I've been kind of coming in and out of game development, but now I'm finally getting to the point where I want to just stop fucking around and really force myself to spend a lot of time just focusing on my game. And so really, I'm going to be going through, the Unity course here. I went through 31% of the world building workshop, which was actually really useful and really helpful. I like that one quite a bit. Originally, I was going to use the Unreal Engine, but I decided against that just because of the time it would take to really do all this stuff in C++ would take me a little bit longer. And just the fact that it was taking so long to compile the code on my computer, although getting a new computer in a couple days is going to alleviate a lot of that pain, but still, whatever. So, I've got all these courses to go through. Some of them are extremely long, some are not. Some are like 80 hours of video, like this one's only like 20. Thankfully, this Unreal one was like literally like 80 some hours of video, and it was going to take me like 3 months just to get through one course, which was crazy. So the cool thing about doing the courses on Udemy is that you have a Unity Discord channel, which is right here, it's called Game Dev TV. But the great thing on this one is if you look, there's always like a lot of people on, right? Like how many people? Where can I tell how many people are actually currently logged in? But there's usually like, hundreds of people, sometimes even thousands of people. And they've got, channels for different things. Like if you're doing like math, here's a Discord channel for math, and you can ask math questions. Game design, there's a channel for Blender. So if you have questions on Blender, Unity, RPG, version control, they have all these different channels. But one of my favorite ones is the Collaborate channel. So you go into the Collaborate channel and you're going to get people saying stuff like, if you just go through here, you'll see people here. Project, Devil's Punishment, role required. This guy's looking for a programmer, a 3D environment artist. And these are just people that are collaborating for free. So if you get to the point where you are making progress on your game, you can certainly easily find other people to help you. There's always people that are interested, and really enthusiastic like I am about making video games. And so that's cool. And here's the channel for the Saga of Lysimia, and I've talked to Renfail, this guy here. If you guys aren't familiar with Saga of Lysimia, you should definitely, this one here, you should definitely check this one out. This is his Discord channel for the game itself, but this is actually the Renfail's personal Discord as well. And he goes through a lot of really cool videos on loot systems. He talks about indie game. He has a whole YouTube channel where he goes through videos on his experiences as an indie game developer. He basically runs his own company, and so if you go in here, like here's latest Monday Morning MPD, in MMORPG. So if you go to his channel here, Renfail's got some good content. This is him right here. He's actually a real nice guy. And Saga Lumissima is another game that's on the radar, on my radar, that actually looks to be more of like an old school style MMO, and he's doing a really great job. And so yeah, so if getting back to Hellblade, the dev diaries are kind of where I want to go, and they're really cool. Like if you look at even just the second one, I think this is a great. Check this out and watch this. I love this type of they're trying to think about they were trying
About
to.
3 months ago, we started.
They're trying, like, see, they're just starting the initial designs of their game, and so they're looking for like art inspiration. What's the style of art? What is the game gonna look like from an artistic point of view? Because as you guys know, when you go into a video game, it's gonna have a look and a feel that's all its own. When you step into World of Warcraft as a world, everything looks. I mean, you know you're in World of Warcraft when you step in Guild Wars 2. You know you're in Guild Wars 2, and that's because of the art style, right?
Did Hellblade with only a small art team in place. The game is set in the times of Vikings and Celts, so we decided to go to a Viking exhibition at the British Museum in London to try and gain some inspiration for the game.
You know, my feeling is like as soon as we walked in, it was just how much detail is in stuff. The brooches in particular, an insane amount of detail.
We were really surprised about the amount of gold, ornate gold they had. I didn't spend that. And I'm pretty sure we're gonna add some cool element on the concept when we go back.
What was really nice was that it wasn't just about looking at the objects, but it was about discussing them, trying to understand the culture behind them and coming up with new ideas.
One idea we had was that, you know, there'd be kind of sacrifices for going into these layers of kind of hell. You'd have to maybe make sacrifices of animals, and it would be more of a kind of spiritual thing where, you know, you're kind of like your body may go somewhere else, and that was backed up by, you know, some dialogue that was in there that talked about that as a very firm belief. So that was cool.
It was a great reference gathering trip. We saw lots of really interesting artifacts and were able to really immerse ourselves in the history of the time.
So after the trip, we started gathering additional reference, which every team member would put on Pinterest. These images contain...
So, a really cool video. I've actually got a Hellblade t-shirt. I used to have a Hellblade hoodie that I got. The Ninja Theory is a game development company based in England. I actually had a really cool Hellblade hoodie that I ended up losing because I left it at a restaurant. I went back to get it about an hour later, and someone had stolen it because it was so cool, of course.
A unique kind of vision. And so these images really just act as inspirational images. You know, the goal ultimately in Senua's...
Here you can see this is the Unreal Engine. I can tell just by looking at the UI. This is the Unreal Game Engine.
costume. There's some elements that...
This is, I'm going to guess this is Substance Painter. Yeah, this looks like Substance Painter.
that are coming through,
So they're working on the textures.
and also a lot of the character concepts were
And
definitely
of course, yeah, this is the main character concept art of Senua, which is super cool. And this is I have a t-shirt with this kind of picture on it.
were
And there's also, so yeah, you look at these dev diaries, and they're really neat because they go into, creating the world. There's some on prototyping, which is pretty cool. There's one where where the guy actually knew a band, and he actually was able to hire this band to write some of the music for the game, which was really cool. And he talks about how, the whole concept of Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, was to make a AAA quality game, but not on a AAA quality budget. They actually did it with a rotating team of usually only 20 or 30 people that were working on the game at one time, and they came out with a game that actually was, really, really pretty high quality game. I never played the game. I've just looked at all the videos of people playing it, but just looking at it, you can see the quality that's gone into it. And of course, I've watched all the diaries and stuff. But really, really, really cool stuff. And the other one too is talking about how they actually built a motion capture studio on a budget. So they basically they talk about how they did that, and making a virtual human, real time performance. This was really neat. They actually won some awards on how they did some stuff with the motion capture. Let me see if I can find on their channel. I wanted to show you guys this one video because I thought it was pretty telling. And it's what is it called? Art concept, art test. Actually, it was in one of the videos. Here it is. This is it. So check this out. So this is like a perfect example of where you're creating just like a little prototype. Like you go into your game engine, you basically lay out some stuff. Like you say, well, I want to create some torches, and I want to create some water, and I want to create some rocks and stuff. And I just want to see what it looks like in the game engine, and I want to see are these particle effects and this lighting going to work for this scene, right? This scene, maybe you're walking through a dungeon, or you're walking through a building or whatever, and we're trying to get the mood that we want, and it's just really working. And so this is what they call a pre-production environment art style test, which is kind of one of the things you would do to try to, you know, just see, is this really working for what we're looking for? So yeah, in-game console art. And the music you're hearing is the band. He actually hired a band that he knew. He, you know, somehow he knew these guys in a band, and they went out and saw him in concert, and they were talking to him, and they actually asked him, could you maybe score the game music for us? And they did. And here's a perfect example of, you know, you can even see the dome, see the little circular dome here. This is like their mini skybox. So they basically have created like a little circular orb where they put in their light sources, their clouds, and then they actually, all they have at the bottom here in the world is just a, you know, a little tile, a section of tile that's a certain size, where they've basically put in some, you know, some 3D art assets, meaning the trees and the rocks and stuff. And this is just what it looks like, you know, from a camera pulled way back inside the game engine. So that's a really cool little video that gives me a lot of ideas when I watch that. But anyways, that, you know, the Hellblade, you know, like I said, their dev diaries is kind of where I want to go with, you know, with the world of Vosslar as a, you know, as a channel to go through and say, hey, maybe in this development diary, you know, I'm gonna say this is how I created this village and for the town of Breck, and maybe in this next diary, this is how I created the character model that I'm going to use, and this is how I went about animating it, or about maybe getting the, you know, the textures downloaded from Mixamo.com, and you know, so basically, you know, those are all the things, and it's just the hardest part for me really is really getting past just the technical barrier of learning, you know, learning the tools, you know, because, you know, once you get past, you know, once you do that, it's not that difficult, because in my mind I know how I want to do everything. It's just a matter of learning some of the software that I need to learn. And I've used 3D programs before. I took a class in the Art Institute of Chicago in 2D and 3D animation. So I've actually have done work in some 3D programs previously, and, you know, and I've used Photoshop and, like I said, Illustrator, and, you know, and I've used Strata Studio Pro, 3D Studio Max. I even used Alias Wavefront Maya back in the day when it wasn't owned by, you know, when it was still Alias Wavefront. So, you know, it's just a matter of, it's funny, like through the years, I mean, like I said, I've been wanting to make this game, you know, wanting to do a video game for so long that I've learned things, you know, over the years, but since I don't do them, I'm not constantly doing it, I forget them all. So a lot of the things that I have to learn, at points in my past, I've already learned them, but now I've got to learn them again, you know, because I just haven't used them. So that's kind of frustrating. But thanks to whoever subscribed to the World of Vosslar, I appreciate that. But I really want to start putting videos out, at least put out like maybe one every week, one every couple weeks on this channel, which means I need to spend like a full week working on something in the game, you know, and then so that way I can show you guys progress, you know, every week hey, here's something I did in the game engine, or here's something I learned, or here's, and just continually show that progress, and then get the ball moving, get the ball, rolling, and get the momentum going, and the more and more people, because you guys know, I mean, you don't find a lot of really good channels out there, YouTube channels, where people build a game from really the ground up and show you how they're doing it. It's like, oh, this is me learning this software, and this is how I did this, and from the smallest things, like just creating rocks, to creating the characters, to creating the NPCs, to creating the combat system. I mean, how many videos have you seen on YouTube where someone really went through, this is how I did all the combat, and this is how I created the collision detection, this is how I did the bounding boxes, and you know what I mean? And I want to do all of that. I want all of that to be documented on the YouTube channel. So I'm pretty excited about it, and like I said, it could take me 10, 15 years to get it done, but I don't care. The whole point is that it really is a hobby of mine, and it's something that I've wanted to do forever, and it's something that I know if I don't do, I'll never be happy. So, so if you don't see me in WoW as much, you don't see me playing games as much, it's because I'm really trying to work on this game. So, anyways, I've yacked my head off long enough, probably, and bored you guys to death, probably. So I'm gonna cut this stream short. Yeah. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, man. But yeah, I'll cut the stream off here unless you guys have any questions, or, if anybody, wants to help out, or if you guys have any advice, or, any things that you're interested in talking about with the game, if there's systems that you're curious about, or if there's things that you think would make an MMO or make my game more fun, certainly, put stuff in the comments. Say, hey, I think it'd be cool if you added this, or what have you thought about that? Or, I'm always looking for feedback, and that's one of the reasons why I put stuff on YouTube, is because it's a great way to get feedback. So, yeah, imagine games in 10 to 15 years. Jawbone. I'm not saying I'm not going to play WoW. I'm just saying that you won't see me doing it probably as much. I just can't do it all, I can't. I can't. It's hard to work on making a game if I'm always spending time playing games, So, focusing on the game development is something that I have to do, really force myself to do. And, but yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be cool. We'll get through some of these courses on Udemy, and it's going to learn a ton, that's for sure. Actually, most of the course, a lot of the course I have are on Blender. I think it's really cool that I mean, Blender's such a great 3D program, and it's really cool at how long it's come, because I actually bought the Blender manual back when Blender was like, 1.0 or something, you know what I mean? I'm talking like 10 years ago or something, or maybe 15 years ago, I was using Blender. And I probably knew how to use it better then than I do now. Back when Blender was really in its infancy, I was using it. And it's really cool to see how far it's come. It's such a great program now. Really, really amazing. It rivals almost any 3D program now. It's gotten so good, especially with Blender 2.8, and now 2.81 just came out. So that I'm excited to really get in there and do a lot of stuff. And there's so many resources out there on YouTube. It's just... but it's very daunting, and you really have to. I think one of the things you have to really look at is just management, is time management, and really breaking things down into little successful. What we do at work, and when I go to the office, is we do sprints, and you do coding sprints, and you say, okay, this sprint I'm going to work on this ticket and this ticket and this ticket, and I have 2 weeks to get these 3 things done, and that's a successful sprint. And the same thing with making the video game. It's like, okay, this week all I have to do is make this one little building, This week, I got to make this one building. And if you do that and you get it done, then go. You check that checkbox. Okay, that's good. That's done. Then you move on to the next one. And you just keep going and going and tackling the massive task of making a video game by doing it little pieces at a time. And that way you don't get overwhelmed, because it's so easy. And one of the reasons I've never worked on the game that much is because I just get so overwhelmed with all the stuff I need to do. I can spend hours just doing, researching, art. If you go into, if you just go into my Vosslar folder on my hard drive here, I mean, I have a lot of stuff in here in my Vosslar folder. Things to remember, C++. I just all kinds of stuff, and then you go to my art, art reference. I have folders for all kinds of stuff, and you guys will probably even recognize some of this stuff because I use these as thumbnails for videos. But these are also art reference that I use as art reference for my game, to give me ideas, even something as simple as this one here, gives me an idea for how I may want, a stone wall to look when I'm inside of the world of Vosslar. So, and I'm constantly looking at artwork for reference, and, there's just, there's a lot of stuff, to think about. World machine. Here, world map. I don't even know if do I have. These are all PSD files, though. These are all Photoshop files I was working on. And I don't have Photoshop installed right now, so I'm gonna have to start. That's another thing. This is how much money I've spent. I mean, I've spent on World Machine. I think I spent $300 just buying World Machine. Then I bought Geoglyph, which was a plugin for World Machine. That was $100. I've had an active subscription to Artisy Draft for probably about 2 years. And that's like, I don't know, probably like $10 a month, I've spent a lot of money on my game, even though I haven't even worked on it that much, just in the software that I've purchased. And so, but that's fine with me. I don't mind spending money as long as I keep working on it. So anyways, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for, appreciate you guys stopping by. And I'll catch you guys later next time. And then hopefully I'll start... I'll have a video on the World of Vosslar channel hopefully within the next couple weeks. And it will be the very first one. And maybe I'll even put my face on the webcam, and you guys can see me chatting and talking about it. It could be fun. And I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Peace.